And I'm going to pop this share out for a minute. Zoom into us. Hi, everybody. Oh, yes. Hello, Chase.
What's up? I got my purple shirt on.
You got your purple shirt going on? In praise of animals, I'm wearing Powder Cat today.
Super cool.
I like this shirt.
Yeah. Styling.
Yeah.
I used to think I wasn't cool enough to wear a purple shirt, but then I had a revelation. I am that cool. I am that cool. And
you am that cool. Darn tootin'. You am that cool. Absolutely. Okay. So today we are here to talk about the environmental impacts of vegan or an animal cruelty free, whichever way you want to say it, because I think it's all an overlapping Venn diagram, right?
Well, yeah, pretty much. You just butchered that so bad. Like
I did. I'm speaking earnestly. My grandfather taught me to speak this way because if I get confused, you end up having to give me the adult nuance of it, and then we both understand each other. So I'm prompting you to give me a clearer answer.
The environmental benefits of a plant-based diet.
Excellent. You had a document that you wanted to talk through. Should we jump to that?
Whatever you want to do.
Okay. So I'm just going to interview you on this, and you had this cool document.
Yeah.
So tell me about this first claim. This is that the Vegan Beyond Burger creates 90% less greenhouse gas emissions, I would assume, compared to a beef burger?
Correct.
Or another meat burger of some sort?
Yeah, it says at the bottom of this little quote that compared to a beef burger.
A beef burger, thank you. So uses 99% less water. I'm assuming that's because feeding a cow uses a lot of water.
Right, so we have to give the cow water to drink, and we have to use a lot of water to feed the crops that are then fed to the cow.
Yeah, that's an enormous concentration.
For about a year and a half, or 18 months to get the cow up to slaughter weight, to then get a small amount of meat,
Hey, Sapir. Welcome to the show. So 99% less water. I'm assuming that the majority of that probably is in the cattle food itself, as opposed to what the cattle drinks, but really doesn't matter. It's all water going into the cow. So fine. And just to be clear, when we say use of water, we mean the change of drinkable water into not drinkable water that we then wait for the biosphere to do its own natural hoopy-doo and put back into the front of that thing. So when we say using water, we mean using up our waters, our planet
fresh water
filtration. Yeah, filtration and generation of fresh water capacity. Okay. 93% less land. Okay, is that because of that concentration of food into such smaller amounts of food that it's feeding the human much more efficiently?
Yeah, it's called a feed conversion ratio of the amount of crops or grassland or whatever that has to be fed to an animal to get them up to slaughter weight. If we just ate those plants directly or use that land that was used to grow those crops, because some of those crops aren't edible for humans, like grass or whatever, the feed that the cows are eating, but the land that we're using to grow those things we could be using to grow rice and pasta and like beans and bread, these kinds of
we could, if it can support grass, we could easily enough make it support things that we would like to eat.
Potatoes.
Sure, potatoes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Okay. Now, this next one requires 46% less energy. And the first, and I go, hang on. I'm thinking in terms of physics. And energy in this case, they're probably, I'm going to assume, talking about like energy inputs from our grid and our petroleum system. So that may be thinking in terms of kilowatt hours or liters of diesel put into the processing, run the tractors and the lights and everything else. And I'm thinking about the energy when you're using the land. When I think of a when I think of a chunk of land, I think about gigawatts coming down. That swamps the energy that we input to harvest it. So if you're saying you use 93% less land, and I think the energy is mostly solar going into it, it's a lot different than 46% less. It would be at least 93% less. Anyway, I want to
don't
make
know.
that point.
Yeah, you might be right. I don't know. I'm not super smart with science. That's not my field.
It's okay.
I was raised by young Earth creationists, so I'm playing
I was
catch up.
too.
Okay,
I
cool.
was too. I caught up a lot.
It sounds like it. Yeah, that's good. So
Yeah.
I think what we would have to do is just open up the studies and see exactly the methodology and all that stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not arguing the study or their definitions. I'm
Yeah.
asserting that for me, when I think about the energy, I'm thinking about the energy that comes onto the land from the sun as the dominant component. If I'm writing fiction for the future right now, the working title is Humanity's Children, and
Okay.
it's about living in closed system life with a bunch of energy input,
Okay.
mostly solar panels on the outside of habitats, right? What does it take to keep people going? And as it turns out, my rule of thumb after a whole bunch of research is about 10,000 watts continuous. I need to
Okay.
provide about 10,000 watts of input into my plant farm to feed you and keep you happy and healthy in your normal life. If I want to add meats into that, I need about 35,000 watts.
Oh, dang.
No, that's because that's a 3.5 multiplier. That's not 100% meat in your diet. That's only a fraction of meat in your diet.
Yeah.
And you see that for a space station, that's 3.5 times the number of people that are healthy on it with a vegan diet.
And it might,
35.
and it might also depend on like which animals you're talking about because the feed conversion ratio is different for different animals. Highest for cows because they're big, and lowest for chickens and fish because they're smaller.
Mhm.
But and we'll go into more on of that in the next
Yeah.
little summary that we have.
Did we want to pull this link up at all?
Yeah, let's go ahead and open up that first one. Just for
Okay.
a second,
See if I can do this slick. Bang, and share this tab instead. Woohoo!
There
Got it in
cool.
one.
So from the University of Michigan, Center for Sustainable Systems. And so you can just kind of, see a little bit, you get the title there and the date that it was published and the abstract, which is basically like the summary of what they found. And then, you can keep scrolling and stuff. We're not going to read all this, but just to kind of give the audience a glimpse of, what these types of things look like.
Yeah, I see these claims, the comparative assessment, 90% less greenhouse gas, 40% less energy. I didn't get the definition, but I'm fine with it. I'm not quibbling that. Better than 99% less impact. Okay. On water scarcity. And okay, well, impact on water scarcity, that could be a small thing. Water scarcity could be the person who takes the very last liter, and now suddenly, I think that might be cribbed, but that doesn't matter. That
Not sure.
obviously less water, obviously a lot less water.
Yeah.
And then quarter pound of USB. Okay, so yeah, there's comparing the two, by the serving. Thank you.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if, and then we can go to the next one if you want. So, from Yale University, it takes 25 calories of plants to make 1 calorie of beef because the cow has to eat plants for 18 months to get them up to slaughter weight. So that's that feed conversion ratio again. So for cows, it's 25 to 1. If it's, I think with pigs, it's like 16 to 1, and with chickens, it's like 9 to 1.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so even those smaller animals, it's incredibly resource intensive, and the most animals, we'll see in a minute, we raise, and kill, in America alone,
Mhm.
10 billion land animals every year
Mhm.
for food, and most of them are chickens.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I confirm your figures, that, about 25 to 1 calorically for beef, on the order of 15 to 1 for pigs, and on the order of 9, 10 to 1 for, poultry. And the other set of figures that I see bandied about on this compare protein levels,
Mm,
because the protein is the hard part to make for the plants, whereas the calories are cheap and easy. So on the protein side, the figures are 13 to 1 for cows, 6 to 1 for pigs, and between 2.7 and 3.5 for different kinds of poultry.
okay.
So it's a different factor, but still a hugely, hugely important factor that
Mhm.
the best turkey I can get at about 3 to 1 is still I'm only getting a third of the protein because I grew another animal to live on it for a bunch. Calorically, I confirm, and protein-wise, some people consider that more important. Do you have any feedback? I wanna jump to Sepir's question.
No, that's fine. Go ahead and take that question. I'm sending you a picture in, our Discord,
Thank you.
messages, so if you can check that, it's coming in just a second, but then
Yep,
you can go ahead
I'll see if I
and
can share that to something when it comes up. Not to distract from the topic, but if y'all haven't heard and or looked into the concept of Earth ships, you might wanna check it out. I very much have checked out that concept. This Humanities Children thing is a many years project, and I've had my head stuck in that as a personal interest of mine for decades. Earth ships and O'Neill cylinders and all sorts of wild and crazy notions of ways to live in enclosed environments. I'm I'm all into it, trying to build that as a fictional reality to perhaps inspire people toward the steps to get us there. I want to get us to Mars because that gets us to more than just Mars. Okay, open in browser. Share this tab instead. Let me move that over to here. Is this the one you wanted? Oh, I need,
yeah, that's one of
I need
them, that I
Zoom.
think is worth looking at for a minute, because, the Beyond Burger and the Impossible Burger have the same amount of protein,
Hmm.
um, as a regular burger.
Yeah.
So I think it's just something worth looking at, for a moment.
So Beyond Burger and Impossible Burger are both um, plant based, and the
Yes,
other ones are the meat. And so this is it, we're saying that nutritionally they are comparable. In what ways are they relevantly different nutritionally?
nutritionally.
Hmm.
Um, well, as far as cholesterol, so, plant-based products have 0 cholesterol,
Okay.
and we have no need for dietary cholesterol. Your
Right.
body makes its own cholesterol. And so introducing dietary cholesterol often increases the risk of atherosclerosis and heart disease by the clogging of the arteries. And so yeah, so there's the cholesterol issue. There's lower saturated fat in plant-based burgers,
Hmm.
and but I think they're about the same as far as calories and protein. So, and then I sent you another
Okay.
um, graphic about plant-based milks
Uh-huh.
versus cow milk and their environmental impact. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Oh, let's see. Okay. Impacts. per liter of milk. Okay, so this is comparing dairy milks with plant-based milk simulators.
Milk simulators.
Yeah, they're nut juice.
It doesn't sound good.
I'm not trying to be like political about it. I do agree
Sure.
that the milk board would like to push the idea that milk has to be from a mammalian teat, and I actually kind of work with them on that
You
because I
know,
am
the,
picky about language. But
you know
I also don't find them to be nutritionally similar.
the worst part about being an almond milk farmer is having to wake up, so early to milk the almonds. They're
Yeah.
so
Oh
tiny,
man.
little but anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Early in the morning out there. Yeah. So compared to what I'm thinking of as nut juices or plant-based milk simulants, it it some of them seem to be very good simulants as far
They're
as
good.
and yumminess.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Please drink those. Enjoy the heck out of them. I
Mhm.
don't see them as nutritionally similar, and I think you would say that's a feature, not a bug. Tell me about that.
Yeah, for sure. Because again, they don't have cholesterol and cancer-causing agents like, milk has, been shown to increase the risk of cancer. I've got a bunch of
Mhm.
studies on that. That's a topic for another day, I think, but, so there's, to my best of my knowledge, been no studies showing that, plant milks cause or increase the risk of cancer. So, there's that. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, we don't need to drink,
Yeah,
cow
nut
we
juice.
don't we don't need
We know about nuts. Nuts are great stuff. You want your
yeah.
nut juice? Have nut juice. Enjoy your
And
nut juice.
we have no need dietarily, nutritionally for
Yeah,
cows' breast milk any more than we have a need for dogs' breast milk or rats' breast milk.
yeah. And my only caution is that people should not see the milk label on the thing and not turn around to the nutrition facts on the back and use that as your guide. The amount of protein versus the amount of fat versus the amount of carbohydrates and the cholesterol, as you say, and the sodium and the various other things. If you're paying any attention to those, please, look at the label on the back and not the one on the front for your information.
Yeah, I'm sending you another graphic, but before you look at
Thank you.
that, we should stay on this one for a minute, I think.
Yes.
Um, Let me plug in my computer. I forgot to do that earlier, so I've probably been coming in all fuzzy this whole time. Let's see if this makes me clear. I don't know if I was fuzzy to begin with, but
Okay.
okay. I hope you can see me, everyone.
You have looked okay to me, but
Okay,
I'm
cool.
biased.
Yeah, aw. I love your beard, you're so beautiful. Okay,
Thank you.
so,
Thank
all right, enough
you. I can't
flirting.
tell if you're pretty
Oh,
anymore. I'm biased in your favor from long association.
oh, so it's got nothing to do with my face? I got
Actually, as a photographer, I can put on my photographer's hat and say you are very photogenic.
okay, thank you, because I got prettied up just for you. So anyway,
Thank you.
let's save the planet with some milk here.
Yes.
So greenhouse gases, land use, freshwater use, eutrophication. Do you know much about eutrophication?
Wait,
Because I don't.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, do it.
Yeah. You talk about the other ones. I'm gonna look up
Okay.
eutrophication.
Okie dokie. So basically, I mean, I'm assuming people here are able to see all this stuff and not just listening. So the graph is, I don't need to really explain it too much as you can see it. So it looks like, yeah, pretty self-explanatory there. So
Natural
eutrophication,
process that it results from the accumulation of nutrients in lakes or other bodies of water. So I'm gonna say that the eutrophication is when we over fertilize and therefore cause other plants that we are not gaining any benefit from using up the nutrients that are important, and therefore depleting the biosphere's capability to support us in arable land.
okay, scary. We should stop doing that.
No, not this one. No, not that one.
Yeah, yeah, that
Which
one,
one do you
that one,
want? This is
this
the one
one.
you want. Thank you.
Yeah. So here we got greenhouse gas emissions per 100 grams of protein. and beef at the top, like lots of greenhouse gas emissions compared to nuts at the far bottom,
Mhm.
and peas and pulses, um, ground nuts, tofu, grains, all
Yeah.
vegan stuff, right? Plant-based
Uh-huh.
products, and then you start getting up into the animal products, and that's where everything starts to explode into
Sure.
excessive and unnecessary greenhouse gas emissions.
Absolutely. Whole bunch of. So, there's another graph. I don't wanna slide on this one, because nuts specifically grow on trees, pretty
Okay,
much. I think the ones that don't are legumes, like peanuts.
not
Uh,
sure.
yeah, I'm gonna leave peanuts out as a separate category. Uh, but nuts that grow trees, and if we end up cycling those trees in the greenhouse into a carbon capture situation, like mulching them back into the ground, I think we might actually have a negative greenhouse
Oh,
gas emission from the nuts trees. I think the graph might actually once offset in for carbon capture function.
exactly.
Natural normal, mulching level of carbon capture. I don't mean something wildly technologically advanced. Uh, that the zero line would move.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, cool. So I think we can move off of this and back onto the document.
Is it
El
oh,
documento.
wham!
Okay,
And I'll
all right.
resize this thing because I
Yeah,
adjusted a lot.
that's cool. So we'll go
Okay.
to the third quote, which is from the IPCC Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Yeah. And so vegan is the best diet for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, is their claim there. And we, we could open it up, but we've got a lot to move through here. So, but anybody who wants to, like, we'll leave this document 100 vegan environment sources in the chat or in the description or something like that, so
Okay.
that you can
Uh,
access this document later.
gr- yeah, let me copy this into the chat.
Yeah,
Wow.
because I want people to.
I think that covers it, and I will please remind me at the end to paste this in the description with all of your links. Thanks.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, cool. Because I want people to have the opportunity to look at this themselves and open up all these links if they want to, and look into do a deep dive into the research to see how credible it is and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Okay, so next one is from the
Well,
United Nations. Oh, go
before
ahead.
we do that, Sapir asks, Chase mentioned a lack of studies showing carcinogenic properties of plant-based milk. If there were studies that showed similar correlation to cancer as with cow milk, how might that change his view? I think the hypothetical is if we found that plant-based milks and cow milk had statistically insignificant differences, would
In
that
car
change your
in
view in that regard?
in carcinogenic effects and cancer causing effects, then
Yeah.
what I would say at that point is, like, we still have the issue of the environmental difference
Okay.
between plant milks and
Yeah,
cow
so
milk.
today's argument is I keep steering it back to diet, but that's just me doing the thing.
But
Your argument today is about the environmental impacts outside of humans,
yes,
not our internal flora.
yes, because I would also argue that, like, you have the right to, imbibe, consume cancer-causing agents if you want to. Like, I mean, so like that should maybe
Yes.
be your right.
Yeah.
Um, but people need to be informed about this stuff. Like, I didn't know that this stuff causes cancer. That
Yeah.
meat and dairy and eggs increase the risk of cancer. So we need to at least be, it needs to be informed consent instead of us being tricked into thinking that we need to eat this for our health or something when it's actually really bad for us.
Right. Sepper said, challenging to ask a question with limited character sometimes. Sorry. You did beautifully.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Next
cool.
one.
So next one is from the United Nations. 70 billion land animals are fed and killed every year across the world. That's 10 times the human population. And in America, it's 10 billion. So 70 billion, I mean, yeah, like 10 times the human population. So that's the amount of
Okay.
individuals that we are feeding. So if we didn't breed these animals into existence, then we wouldn't have to feed 70 billion land animals like cows,
Right.
pigs, chickens, right? So we would have extra land, extra food to maybe
Yeah.
feed the hungry humans of the world. Because I'm down with that. Because I'm a human rights activist too.
Sure. Sure.
Today I'm mostly an environmental activist, right?
Yes.
But I am also a human rights activist and an animal rights activist.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so this is about the numbers of animals. And I would assume that if I were to look at the biomass versus the quantity, I'd have a really big pile of biomass in the cows, but the really big pile of numbers in the chickens. Does the number of individuals hold weight to you in this, or is it, or are we just talking about the environmental, which is probably proportional to the biomass, including those multiplier factors being different? Like
It's
the
a
multiplier
complex
factor
question.
would go against the cow, but if you're looking at individual rights of the animals, it would go against using chickens because fewer
Yeah,
cows would be suffering.
right.
The trolley problem.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and I do lean towards utilitarianism.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So does that
greatest good,
difference hold a weight
greatest.
for you, or are you just saying, but I don't want either, so it doesn't matter to me?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a
Okay.
full animal liberationist, and like we need to get rid of all of this stuff in order to stop the climate crisis. In addition to getting rid of all this fossil fuel use in cars and
Yeah.
everything. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of different things we could do, but this is a huge one.
Yeah. I'm extremely optimistic on the replacing fossil fuel thing, and that can be a different live stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Ready?
Next.
Yeah.
Next, yeah.
Next one is
Okay.
also from the United Nations. 70% of the deforestation in the Amazon rainforest is for raising cattle to make beef.
Yeah.
So they cut down the trees and grow crops to then feed to the animals, or
Yeah.
they cut down the trees and use it as like grazing area for the livestock for
Right.
cows to roam around and stuff.
Yeah. If
Um,
you want to just get a third of your calories through animals, you have tripled the feed required to feed that one human because you've got a 9 to 1 or something in whatever those factors are. What I'm saying
right.
is it's just like chunk and chunk. And so of
Yeah.
course 70% of the food is going to feed the animal to feed my third, if I want
Yeah.
a third of my
Yeah.
losing meat.
Yeah, and then here's more stats on that, So the next one is Our World in Data.
Hmm.
77% of global soy is fed to cows for meat and dairy production. So a lot of times people make fun of vegans and they're trying to, take shots at us and say like, "Oh, well, you guys are eating all this soy." And it's like, well, dude, most of the soy is fed to the cows, that you're eating.
Hmm.
So
Any
um,
reason to not like soy?
no, it's just a
Okay.
bean, like, and that's another
Yeah.
thing, like, they'll say, "Oh,
Or
well,
chickpeas
it's got
or
estrogen."
garbanzo beans.
Yeah, they'll say it's
Yeah.
got estrogens in it, and that gives you man boobs or something, and it's like, that's not true. That
Good.
well, no, I mean,
I
so
rather like my
they're
man boobs.
it's called phytoestrogen, like plant estrogen
Yeah,
that's
sure.
in these soybeans, and that does not transfer over to human mammals. But you know what does?
Yeah.
Mammalian, like from mammals, like from cows, that kind of estrogen
Yeah, that
does
does, 'cause it's close
transfer
enough to
over.
humans to interact biochemically and hook into our little receptors ofness,
Yeah, so it's pretty
of knowing what
funny
to
how
do.
that.
I'm
Right.
not very afraid of soy. As it
Yeah.
turns out, I have a surplus of the masculineness of the hormones that make all my
Yeah.
hair fall down to my face, and the rest of my body is I'm a gorilla. Anyway,
Oh,
yeah, I'm a bear. Um,
nice.
but so
Not
so
me.
soy was a little estrogen, not gonna
I
not gonna
uh
mess me up much.
I believe I saw a nipple.
Just now? No, but
Yeah, no, it was me. You missed it, but,
oh,
rewind.
sorry.
Yeah, I gave a
I
little flap
I'll
of my
play back.
bare chestedness because I am not a
Mm,
bear. I am bare
Right.
chested. Not
Yes.
not. Yes, I think you understand. I have no hair.
Yes. Yes, I
In
understand.
part because I trim. I trim the little bits that I have. But anyways, this has gotten off track and way too personal.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead. Sorry. But just soy is no problem. I
Yeah,
understand soy boy is often a
boy,
slur
boy. Yeah,
for
yeah.
somebody who likes nut juice. It's like, what?
Right.
Or
And to be
tofu.
clear, just for the record, like a lot of the vegan meats are made out of soy, but a lot of them are not. Like the very
Yeah.
popular Beyond Burger, Beyond Meat is not made out of soy. It's made out of peas, pea
I
protein.
love
But it doesn't
peas.
taste, yeah, it doesn't taste like peas though. It tastes like a burger. But
Yeah.
anyway, all right. So let's move on to the next one. So can you highlight the next one, which
Yeah.
is from the American
Regina,
soy?
I keep throwing it off into health. I will be more disciplined and stay on the topic of environmental. We will definitely cover health in this series. Thank you for the
Yeah.
discipline.
Sure. So going to the American Soy Association. So the last one we had read was Our World in Data about global soy production, but this and how it's 77%. And this one is about the American Soy Association. 90% of U.S. soybeans are used for feed for animal agriculture. 90%.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So just good to know. All right, so we can move on quick from that. So the
That
next one
must
is
mean that soy is an efficient food.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, so next one is from Stanford University. It takes 1,800 gallons of water to make 1 pound of beef, the equivalent of 120 showers, compared to only 600 gallons of water to make 1 pound of beans. So that's what is 3
Oh.
times as much.
Yeah, but do I get what's a pound of beans and a pound of beef are not nutritionally similar. How many beans do I need to make a pound of beef's nutrition um, goals in terms of, say, protein?
I mean, they're pretty similar, but we can look it up real quick.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so let's try oh wait, actually well, yeah, let's see. What should we do, like by 100 grams? Yeah, let's try
Yeah, sure. Just
protein content of 100 grams of beans versus beef. Let's see. And I don't know which website to choose here.
whatever. Round numbers is fine. I don't need precision.
Let's see. I mean, this is just going to be a little tricky because I haven't vetted these sources. So I'm just like pulling
That's
up
okay.
anywhere.
We understand that we're speaking in round numbers, and they've just made a 3-to-1 comparison. So if it's a 2-to-1, the difference is not as stark.
Okay, so the first one I'm pulling up is from Super Sage. I don't trust
Okay.
this website. Okay.
Okay.
It's only giving a percentage, it looks like,
Okay.
as opposed to like a grams.
Like
But
a
it's
percentage
saying,
of protein?
yeah,
That would be fine.
38%. Yeah, so
Okay.
for
Is that
beef,
for the beef?
yeah,
Great.
38% for beef
Great.
and 26 for kidney beans.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
that's
then
a
that's fine. I'm great. I'm great. So
let me,
that means that this difference of water is about 2-to-1.
so it's still,
Instead of 3-to-1,
something
which is just
we
fine.
should,
Makes the point.
yeah, it's still there. Yeah, I'm just
Uh-huh.
trying to find something else real quick. The average serving size. Okay, wait.
Yeah, not too concerned about that. I eat a lot
Okay.
more peas than I do meat, and still, I eat a lot less calories in peas than I do meat.
This is about calories, and then I'll talk about protein. So calories, beef is around 2 times higher in calories compared to kidney beans.
Mhm,
Uh, a 100-gram serving of beef provides 250 calories versus kidney beans, which is 125.
mhm.
And then with protein, um, when
Sounds to
comparing
me like the
equal,
protein over calories is better for the beans. Is
yeah,
that right?
when comparing equal serving sizes, ground beef is 3 times richer in protein compared to kidney beans.
Oh,
However, when comparing average serving sizes consumed per person, beef is only 1.4 times higher in protein.
good enough. Thank you.
Uh, one, okay, yeah, we can stop But
Well,
again, there's other sources though. Let me show you this real quick. I'm gonna send you in Discord a
uh-huh.
graphic of some vegan protein sources because it's not just beans. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
let's see
Well,
here.
this is just giving the nuanced part of what does this water comparison mean? Because I am trying to be disciplined and not go too much
Yeah,
into the health question. Just the value of the food in reasonable comparisons. Yeah.
sure, sure. So go ahead and open this in Discord if you could.
Yes. Bing bang.
So this is again per 100 grams in weight. So at the top, with very low is potatoes with 1.9 grams of protein per 100 grams of weight. But then at the very bottom, you've got seitan, which is
Oh my.
75 grams of protein per 100 grams. So that's like just nothing but protein, pretty much.
What is
Let's try to
that?
find.
What
So
is a seitan?
it's like a wheat, maybe a fermented wheat gluten or something. So
Mm, mm, mm.
some people can't have it if they're gluten intolerant or whatever. But let me try to find where kidney beans were.
I
Okay,
love gluten.
so kidney
I
beans.
don't do it much because it's too carbohydrate but yeah.
Yeah, so kidney beans on this list, and I did verify this list,
Uh-huh. Thank
is
you.
up towards the top at just 8.7.
Yeah.
Okay, so 8.7. Let me see if we can find let me do a search just about beef, asking how many grams of protein in 100 grams of beef. 35 grams is the first thing that came up. So that's definitely higher than the kidney beans, but 35 grams of protein is similar to, hemp seeds, edamame pasta. It's less than edamame pasta, and
Mhm.
it's half as much as seitan.
Right, right.
So yeah,
Well, seitan
and
is just nuts processed stuff.
yeah, and
Um,
but there
yeah,
is also this misunderstanding of how much protein we actually need. We don't
sure.
need that much protein, and however much protein you need, it is easily accomplishable in a vegan diet, especially
Very
because
well.
you got vegan like protein powders. That's what I start my day with is
Yeah.
like a protein shake with
Yeah, direct
fruit.
processed supplements, yeah.
Yeah, and that
Uh,
stuff that like I have a rice protein powder and a pea protein powder from peas,
mhm.
and both of them each have more protein than whey protein powder, which comes from animal products.
Yeah. So, Gina asks, "What alternative are there for people allergic to soy?" And I'm just gonna say you've answered it. I'm gonna look at this list and start with oats and say everything from oats all the way down to I'm gonna get your thing out of the way, down to whatever you like, at the bottom. I haven't tried seitan, but let's assume that we don't even have to include that. Anything up to seeds, from oats to
Yeah.
seeds.
And let me say another thing. I just brought up another website, and again, like I haven't vetted all these sites, but
Mhm.
this next the previous site that I said had it said beef had 35 grams of protein, but this site is saying it's more like 20 grams of protein.
Yeah.
So it might also depend on what kind of meat or what kind of beef you're getting. If it's got more fat or if it's more lean or something like this. But
Yeah.
on average, beef contains around 20 grams of protein per 100 grams. So 20 grams compared to this list, you've got other things like tempeh, pistachio nuts, flax seeds, chia
Mhm.
seeds, cashew nuts, almonds, pistachios, peanut butter, pumpkin seeds.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of different things.
Kimberly makes me a comfort food breakfast that I really, really like that is oatmeal
Uh-huh.
with a whole bunch of chia and sunflower and pecans added. And
Okay,
that
cool.
apparently on your list is good, vegan, efficient, and environmentally friendly and kind
Aw
to animals.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, so there's a lot of alternatives and, the amount that you need of protein per day is only, 50 grams. 50 grams a day. That's easily accomplishable. So long as you're eating enough food, you're gonna get that. I mean, well, that's not true necessarily because if you're only eating lettuce, like lettuce is food, and like that doesn't have enough protein. So,
Right, right. I
I
don't
take
count
that
that in
back.
my stuff.
Yeah,
Who
but
would
generally
say?
speaking, if you're eating enough calories, I would say, then you're probably getting enough protein, but you wanna, like, keep an eye on your diet, make sure that you're eating a well-balanced diet, whatever you're eating.
I'm seeing all these street epistemology shirts behind me, and I'm reminded to ask you, who who would say that you need more than 50, and why would they say it?
Right, great question. So
Outsider
if
test, steel man
yeah,
the opposition.
so yeah, so if you're an athlete, like a bodybuilder or runner or whatever, then you would probably want, because you need to have more calories and more protein to
Mhm.
get bigger and to make up for losing calories because you're exercising so much. So I think
Yeah.
with athletes and bodybuilders, it might be something like y your body weight in
Mhm.
protein. So, like, I'm about 160 pounds, so I would need about 160 grams of protein per day to be, like, at that, great level of fitness or whatever.
Okay.
And that also is easily accomplishable on a vegan diet.
Oh, totally, totally. That oatmeal breakfast that I talked about, would be, absolutely enough, uh, and efficient enough in getting my protein and calories to cover my day's protein needs.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure, I do take in more protein than that, by habit, but I'm agreeing
Sure.
that I don't need to.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's go back to the document with the environmental
Back
stuff.
to the document. Yes. Share this tab instead.
Okay,
Reese is
cool.
a
So the next one is from the University of Oxford. So raising animals takes up 75% of our farmland because we have to grow tons of crops to feed all these animals.
yes.
A vegan diet is probably the single biggest way to reduce your impact on planet Earth, not just greenhouse gases, but also global acidification, eutrophication, land use, and water use.
Uh-huh.
Beef required 36 times more land than peas.
Mhm.
That's
And
bananas.
well, that's another question, but, the 36 times more land than peas, yes, you're taking out of ends of the scale, comparing them, yes, so you're gonna expect a big difference, and the other side would argue very much that the land used to grow the cow's food is not usable for growing peas.
Well, that's not necessarily true because we could do indoor vertical farming to grow these peas, using like a hydroponic or aeroponic
Right.
system.
Yes.
And so it's not dependent on what kind of soil because it's built indoors, like a
Right, but we
vertical.
wouldn't grow grass for cows on that land. We would use land that is too hilly, too weird, too whatever, and that's where we do the cows, and they end up preferring a right or a left side, and they'll walk clockwise around the hills or counterclockwise.
Well, and that land that, is currently used for growing crops for animals or
Mhm.
where animals are grazing or whatever, or like land that is depleted to the point where we can't grow crops that are
Sure.
edible for humans. We
Yeah.
can probably still grow trees and shrubberies and stuff there. Bring us a shrubbery,
A
right?
survey.
A shrubbery and make it a nice one,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
Because
mhm.
that could, create little forests and stuff to
Sure.
sequester the carbon emissions from animal agriculture and our cars and everything.
I completely agree that we could take the grasslands that we currently are using for grass-fed, self-harvesting beef, which a lot of it isn't. A lot of it is really on the same farmlands, and then it's, by truck and bales and
Mhm.
stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's mostly. This is the argument from the other side that I'm just giving voice to
sure.
say that there's a lot of land that we couldn't use for peas that we are currently growing beef on.
Yeah, that's true. It's just we don't need to
Right.
because
And there
if
might be
we
better uses for that land.
exactly.
Yeah.
And like this study is saying from the University of Oxford, it's that raising animals takes up 75% of our farmland. So
Yep.
if we didn't do that, if we didn't breed these animals, then that would free up 75% of our farmland, and we would not need to
Oh, yeah.
replace all of that with plant agriculture for us to eat. We would only need
Right.
like 10%, only need like 10% of that land. And we wouldn't even need
I
necessarily that
completely
land.
agree.
It could be other land, but like, in any case. So, ready for the next one?
Yes. Vegan
Okay, cool.
diet would cut food-related emissions by 70%. Well, yes, for all the same, it's the same answer. Economic benefit of reduced greenhouse gas emissions from dietary changes could be as much as 570 billion US, I assume, per year.
I
Uh,
believe so.
and that seems really small. 570 billion? That's it? That's only $80, $60 a person, $80 a person.
Well, I mean,
Mm,
the the US military budget is like $800 billion per
right.
year. So
Sure,
this
sure.
is this is right below that. So that's pretty significant.
But it's worldwide. And
Maybe
yes,
so.
the US military budget is significant worldwide, no question.
True, true. Okay, so let's move on to the next one.
Right.
From Ready? So from
Yes.
Stanford University, if everyone in the US ate no meat or cheese just 1 day a week, it would have the same environmental impact as taking 7.6 million cars off the road.
How many million
But that
cars are there? Are there a billion cars?
let's see.
If we said that's the case, then that's 0.76% of car impact.
Okay, hold on.
And if I multiply that,
Cars are on the road in the US.
no, right, okay, right. They're probably talking about cars in the U.S. Thank you for
I
that
I think
clarification.
so. I'm not positive, but I think so.
Sure, sure.
And it's
Well, actually,
saying
they're not having to say. They're just saying take 7.6 million. But yes, it would be in the U.S. would be the proper comparison. Go for it.
probably. Oh yeah, it does say in the US. Yeah. This is from Forbes car ownership statistics of this year. Um, a total of basically 278 million. So about 280 million.
280 million, 700. So that's about two and something percent, two and a half, 2 to 2.5%.
But
And
remember
then
that's
there's
1 day a
1 day a
week.
week. Right. So
Right.
let's assume that it's 14 to 20% of cars on the road is the impact of dairy farming. Does that
Um,
does that
Wait,
sound
say
right?
that again. I didn't
So
track you. I'm sorry.
if I multiply the 2 to 2.5% by 7, I get 14 to 20% in round numbers. Does that track?
What was the 2% from?
If I take 7.6 million cars out of 280 million cars, that's about 2 to 2.5%
Okay.
of the cars. And if I take that 2.5%, that gets to me about 20 if I multiply by 7, or 14 if I multiply by 7 by 2. So 14 to 20 is my range. Does that track with what this claim is?
I'm just not sure if that was just for dairy is what you were saying, because this is about meat or cheese, right?
Right. The production of meat and cheese is the thing that they're measuring, and they're saying if we reduced our consumption of it by 1/7,
Yeah.
that it would account for 2 to 2.5%. And I extrapolate that to if we reduced it 100%, that would affect it about 14 to
Okay.
20% as much as the cars on the road.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so, and does that sound good? That sounds pretty good, right?
It's a good environmental impact. It definitely
Yeah.
helps to make your
And
argument.
and that probably matches the next, statistic, which is from the
Okay.
United Nations. The United Nations says that the greenhouse gas emissions coming from raising cattle is more than the entire transportation sector, which includes all cars, trucks, trains,
Okay.
planes, and ships. And that's a global statistic, and that's only about cows, though. So that doesn't factor in chickens and
Yeah.
everything else. But that last statistic was also just
Sure.
talking about cows for meat and cheese, I think.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, because it didn't say beef; it said meat. But in any case, yeah. So to the
Mm.
best of my recollection, the United Nations has said that the transportation sector, globally speaking, the transportation sector takes up like 14% of the
Yeah.
greenhouse gas emissions, and raising cattle is like 18%.
Okay. Very good. So transportation emissions are less than cattle emissions, I'm assuming that an important component of this is the methane component, which
Yeah.
has a much higher greenhouse value than the CO2. Therefore, the energy inputs in terms of kilowatt hours, liters of diesel are not the limiting factor. It's the farts and burps.
Yeah.
When I read cattle, I read more than cows. I read pigs, lambs. I
I don't
probably don't read
think so.
poultry.
I think cattle is only cows. I could be
Okay,
wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's only
and
cows. Like cows and
e-
steers,
in
like male and
yeah, in
female
either case,
bovine.
the point is well made. Whether we're talking about just beef or if we're talking about all of the non-poultry meats,
Okay, cool.
same
Okay.
good.
All right, so the next section is just these 3 links, I guess, about grass-fed and free range.
Okay.
Um, the first one, this is just a PubMed study, or a study on that I found on PubMed.
Yep.
So methane was 4 times higher for grass-fed cattle on
Okay.
pasture receiving low quality, high fiber diets like
Hmm.
grass, right? Compared to cattle that were fed high grain diets in feedlots by like soybeans and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So methane, so grass fed free range is actually 4 times worse as far as methane is concerned. So factory farming is better for the environment, is what we're saying here. But factory farming is
Right.
more
In
cruel.
terms of methane, uh, I do have a lot of optimism that we will learn to manipulate the gut biota of our cattle and eliminate the methanogens while increasing the ones that actually help and do three things. One, reduce the burps and farts by an order of magnitude. Two, uh, improve that feed factor by 10 or 15% because we've eliminated methanogens that are releasing energy that don't go into making cow. Those methanogens uh, help the cow deal with some kinds of feeds, but don't overall serve the cow. It's a compromise. So uh, that's where I'm optimistic that we can address the methane question some.
To some degree, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, so the next one is from IOP Science.
Yeah.
A nationwide shift to exclusively grass fed beef would require increasing the national cattle herd from 77 to 100 million cattle, an increase of 30%. A
What?
switch a switch to purely grass-fed systems would likely result in higher environmental costs, include including higher overall methane emissions. Thus, only reductions in beef consumption can guarantee reductions in the environmental impact of US food systems.
Is this my understanding that grass-fed beef is less efficient? Maybe you get less beef per cow, and
It's
therefore you need 30% more cows,
It's
or
it's either that or it could be because it takes longer to get them up to slaughter weight. It takes longer to get a
same thing?
grass-fed
Yeah,
animal up to slaughter weight, by maybe, like, 4 months or something because so
sure.
it's I
You need
so I
more
think, like
head to harvest the same number of cows. They might be of the similar weight.
well, yeah, something like
Okay,
that, or,
same difference.
um
Yeah, good.
yeah, or you just keep, having to feed them for an additional 4 months, and that
Sure.
takes them more, and then they're alive for longer,
If
emitting
they're
more
4
greenhouse.
months longer, then that means they've taken 4 months more feed and everything else. So, yeah, you need that many more. And that also tells me that the labor involved in each cow goes up by a factor of 30% as well. So
Mhm.
the grass-fed beef would be, in many ways, 30% more efficient unless there's other efficiencies of scale that offset that.
Yeah, and then so the last one here is, only 4%, this is from, South Dakota State University.
Mhm,
Um, Only 4% of US beef retail and food service sales is grass-fed beef,
mhm.
with a value of roughly $4 billion.
Right.
So, a lot of times people like to say, "Oh, I buy, this high quality grass-fed stuff." And it's like, well, you're probably not. You're probably just falling for a marketing scam that says it's that when it's actually not, because this stuff is hard to find because it's only 4%.
Right.
Um,
It's
and
economically it's such a
and
special thing.
yeah, because it's more expensive, but it apparently is worse for the environment
In terms of methane, yes.
as far as methane. There might be other
Yeah.
things, yeah.
In terms
So
of, offsetting arable land for food production, it's, better.
maybe so. So
In
yeah,
those
there could be
areas
other.
where you can take advantage of it. Obviously, the opportunities for this kind of, grass-fed are maybe more rare than because they haven't been developed, you know?
Yeah. So so I think right now would be a good time maybe to mention a couple
Yep.
of documentaries on
Yes.
Netflix. On Netflix, there's Cowspiracy
Yeah.
and Seaspiracy, like the
Good.
sea, like the ocean. So
Mhm.
Cowspiracy and Seaspiracy on Netflix are about the environmental devastation from animal agriculture. So that's really good stuff. And
Good.
so Cowspiracy and Seaspiracy,
Mhm.
and
There'll be
then
links in the description.
okay, cool. And then, I mean, I don't know if you wanna stop now or if
Mm,
you wanna,
up to you.
like
This is your presentation.
I mean, I feel like we're making good time, we've been
Sure,
on it
sure.
for about an hour, but, like, we might as well keep going, like, we can scroll
Okay.
through the document a little bit more if you want and just see what
Sure, sure.
pops up at us. So
Uh,
some of these are just links with no explanation, but some there are, so, yeah, if you wanna
sure,
read that
sure.
one.
Meat and dairy products provide just 18% of calories and 37% of protein, but use the vast majority, 83%, of farmland and produces 60% of agriculture's greenhouse gas emissions. So meat and dairy are much less efficient in providing calories to humans. Yes. Moving from current diets to a diet that excludes animal products has transformative potential, reducing food's land use by 3.1. That's okay. By 3.1 billion hectares, a 76% reduction. Okay, so same along the three quarters thing, including a 19% reduction in arable land. A much smaller reduction in arable land
Mhm.
leads to that other counter argument. Uh, Greenhouse gas emissions by 6.6 billion. Okay. A 49% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. The actual number is throws people off, I think. The percentage is all I should focus on. Greenhouse gas emissions by 49%, acidification by 50, eutrophication by 50, and scarcity weighted fresh water withdrawals. Again, that's the last liter thing. So I'm going to ignore it. For the United States, where per capita meat consumption is 3 times the global average, dietary change has the potential for a far greater effect on food's different emissions, reducing them by 61 to 73%. That is very significant. Okay. Do you want to say anything about cow versus plant milk?
No, we already saw that graphic.
Omnivore diets contributed the greatest to greenhouse gas emissions, land use, and water use, and compared to a vegan diet. Okay, omnivore diets. There's also meat-heavy diets or meat-only diets, and I would assume those are a very small fraction of the population, but
Yeah.
disproportionately impactful.
Yeah, you're talking about carnivore diets where
Yeah,
they're, like, only eating meat or raw meat. Yeah, that's not healthy. Don't do that. It's also, especially cruel, and it's yeah, the worst thing you could do for the planet as far as your diet.
okay. Let's see. Ratio of plants to crude meat. Sure. Land use. Good. Deforestation. Yeah, definitely is an issue. Although I'm, again, very optimistic on the deforestation thing. You're talking about the hydroponic sealed farms. I
Mm,
think that I'll just say it this way, when renewable power becomes very much cheaper, it will be cheaper to grow our food inside a sealed box with no bugs can get in it.
exactly.
And all we have to do is just make that concentration of the solar into the lights on the inside with all the inefficiencies involved more efficient because we've sealed up the box, and now our production space goes berserk pants. And you know all
Yeah,
that land we were growing grass on? Solar fields forever, baby.
yeah, there you go. There you go.
On the corner of them, there's this stack of shipping containers with trucks that just keep pulling up and leaving.
Mhm. And, yeah, I think that those indoor vertical farms are way better, at water use
Mhm.
because it doesn't evaporate into the atmosphere, into the hot sun and the dry air. It stays in this building, and so it
Yeah,
just recirculates and humidifies and stuff.
yeah. They use just as much water. They just use it 100 times. And then something like half the water that gets out of that farm is literally in the food.
Mm.
So yummy. That's some good water use right
I
there.
I I think they also harvest crops twice as fast, and it's cool because you can
Oh, yeah.
grow year round, because it's not
Yeah.
dependent on the weather.
You're not seasonal, you're not even diurnal. You're not limited to a 12-hour day. I mean,
Yeah.
and you can make sure that the plants get exactly the right kind of overcast conditions for their optimum, and you can keep them at their perfect temperature. Are you aware that trees are warm-blooded?
I don't even know what that means.
A plant or a creature that can moderate and control its own temperature, regulate its temperature to
Okay.
stay within an optimum position. If you look at the leaves of trees, they transpire water and maintain their surface at 71.2 Fahrenheit or 22 or 21 centigrade.
Cool.
That's their plant body temperature, and they do it at the place where they do the chlorophyll photosynthesis part. So if you keep the interior of the farm at less than 21°C, you get the advantage of dramatically less water transpiration and all the energy losses involved in turning water into steam and back.
Cool. Alright, you wanna keep scrolling on this?
Sure.
See what else we got.
Greenhouse gas emissions, yes, yes. Lots to say about that, and lots to say about how methane is 20 times more important in the short term.
Yeah, something like that.
Manure lagoons, oh my.
Oh, that's
Boy, do
nasty
I
stuff.
wanna cap that over. Manure is an enormously valuable chemical, starting point. I do not want to waste it into the environment.
Yeah, they'll spray it and, like, it gets in the air, they spray and get it messes with people's respiratory systems in the local neighborhoods.
Yeah. Talk to me a bit about antibiotic resistance and how
I
growing or is that something you'd wanna put for another day?
Yeah, maybe another day just
Good.
because, I don't know enough about it and, but it is really interesting, it's basically just that, animals in factory farms especially are pumped full of antibiotics
Mhm.
to keep them from getting sick in these disgusting environments where they get infections a lot, the air
Yeah,
quality is terrible, there's so many animals around them that it could one of them gets a sickness, it could spread really easily, and so they're pumped full of antibiotics, and
right.
so we're eating this antibiotic laden food that then makes it so that our bodies become resistant to those antibacterias. And
Yeah.
then there's also stuff of like um, strains of viruses in the farms
Mhm.
becoming resistant to the bacteria, the antibacteria that the
Sure. Of
animals are being
course they
fed.
will.
So new novel
That's so
bacteria,
predictable that, creationists only don't believe it.
right, so new bacterias and viruses can grow and spread, and then in the farms across all the animals, and then, get in
Mhm.
the air and spread in the water and spread to us.
Yeah, that's one of those areas where the farm in a box is a big advantage because the farms can be kept separate from each other. An outbreak in one farm does not impact a whole herd.
Mm.
Now, that's the factory farming thing, and I think we don't mind at all doing that to plants.
Yeah.
And the problem is the same. Now, antibiotic is not quite the same, but the rest is.
Oh, this one is really important. Not that one. The vegan food is less expensive, just because this needs to be known.
Yeah.
So, from the University of Oxford, global study shows vegan and vegetarian diets are the cheapest option. The
Yes.
study, which compared the cost of 7 sustainable diets to the current typical diet in 150 countries, found that vegan diets were the most affordable and reduced food costs by up to 1/3. And that's
Yeah.
because the cheapest foods at the grocery store are vegan: rice, pasta,
Yeah.
fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, beans, bread.
Okay. Seeds, nuts,
Nuts.
beans. Yes. Rice, I can't really count as an important caloric source for me.
Okay,
Protein is
well,
too low.
maybe not for you. I enjoy a good spoonful of rice every now and then. What you got against rice?
Absolutely. Rice is fine for 20-30% of your diet, if that works for your thing. I don't want to count rice as a good staple. I think it is a survival staple that is not great for human thriving. I think we
Even
need to
brown?
add a lot more nuts and
Sure,
other.
sure. But even brown rice, I know is better than white rice, but maybe it's not as
I don't
good
know.
as nut, like you're saying for sure. We need
Yeah,
more nuts.
it's on the wrong side of the chart for me to add very much of it, but
Okay.
I'm not saying rice bad. I'm saying rice limited. And if you want human thriving, you need to have the richer foods.
Okay.
Um, but that doesn't go against your point, because nuts are 2 to 1 by weight for meat. So 100 grams of nuts for me is 200 grams of meat in almost a straight trade for both calories and, as you say, even better protein and nutrition and less health risk. Uh, the those nuts probably cost me 50% more than that meat, but
Yeah,
fine,
yeah. Yeah, the
fine.
nuts are the only thing on that list I think that I gave that is a little bit more expensive, but
Yeah,
it's
not a
worth
problem.
it. They're so
Yeah,
healthy,
totally.
and
Yeah,
they're
and
so good.
that oatmeal thing is cheap enough to
Yeah.
offset it, because oatmeal is really cheap.
Right, exactly. It gets offset by the other costs, and also it's just so much better for the environment than other protein sources, which
Yeah.
is what we're really focusing on today.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, the environmental impact of my nuts thing is fantastic, and
yeah,
even if it's a straight across trade on my food budget, sure, no
yeah.
problem.
I'll tell you what I eat a lot
I'd have to be
is
really picky to get my vegan food as expensive as my other, unless I buy special. Oh, that's nice. I love me some
wasabi.
wasabi.
These are
I love
spicy,
fresh.
so good, dude.
I went through this whole bottle of hot sauce in about 2 days.
Nice. Look at this hot and spicy Beyond Meat jerky. It's
Nice.
super good, and it's got
Yeah,
mad protein.
Foil's been using that, and it's pretty tasty. I like it. I don't do much jerky in my day.
I did. I was way addicted to jerky, so I'm glad this came out.
I'm
Like there were other. Go
I'm
ahead.
not limiting my salt, but I am paying attention to not get too much, and jerky makes me count.
Hmm.
I limit my salt in terms of my soups.
Okay. Now I will say though that the vegan meats, like the
Mhm.
plant-based meats, are currently more expensive than regular meat. Unless you're going
Sure.
to like
I'm just
a,
not
a
interested in.
fancy, unless you're going to like a fancy steakhouse and getting filet mignon and stuff like that, $100 steak or whatever. But like,
Not gonna
generally
blame
speaking,
you.
a vegan burger is going to cost a little bit more than a regular dead body burger. But the benefit, like that's only for right now because it's new to the market and
Mhm.
society is changing. But supply and demand, as more people buy the product, the price goes down. Over
Yeah.
at Burger King, there at Burger King, there's a Impossible Whopper, a vegan
Yep.
Whopper for only $1 more. So that's cool.
Okay.
And I eat that a lot. It's really good.
Yeah.
And um,
Full gets
but
those.
yeah,
He doesn't eat meat for decades now, and That's common around our house that he'll get those kind of things. They are significantly more expensive
Yeah.
than the way, and that's fine. He doesn't eat a lot, so his food budget is not disproportionate to ours. I bet mine has gone way down. Oh my goodness. From what
Cool.
it used to be. I'm eating a third or a fourth the calories I used to. Yeah,
So yeah,
it's
I
amazing
think
change.
that's the end of this list. There's about
Thank you.
114 links in there.
Yep.
We only went through a few
Huge.
of them, but yeah, thanks for going through those. I think they're pretty strong statistics.
Very much.
You want to scroll down just a little bit? Let's see
Sure,
if
sure.
there's anything else there.
For my work,
Uh,
the chase. So there's the links. That'll work out. Gina does
yeah.
not like wasabi. I appreciate that, and I make sure not to give her any.
Also in this document, though, there you can see at the top right here is 200 vegan health sources. So that's also a really important document
Okay.
that's similar to this one where it has, little summaries, but it talks about, cancer and heart disease and all that stuff. And we'll talk about all that in another day, but this is a really
Yeah,
solid.
we'll talk about the health thing. Thank you for this thing on the environmental. Do you have any summary that you'd like to leave with us?
No, I love y'all. This was a
Love
very
y'all
fun
too.
conversation. Thank you for having me. I
Cool.
look forward to the next time, and y'all can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. So I started with a confidence of 2 sigma that
What's that?
environmental 2 sigma is like 95% confidence. It's the second standard deviation. I'm thinking in statistics terms. Uh, that environmentally from outside the people that a vegan was definitely the better choice for our overall world. And you've increased my confidence by about a half a sigma.
What is a
So
half a sigma? What's a
when
sigma?
this a sigma is the second standard deviation. It's 2 sigma is about 95%, and you've gotten me up to about 98.
Oh, all right. 3 percentage points. Why don't you just say that shit?
Because I'm also speaking to my math base, who
Oh,
actually,
math-based.
yeah, some of my audience actually appreciate that
Okay.
coming from the statistics perspective that I do about my beliefs. And then I have to translate. And it's really weird that I see just as much difference between 66% and 95 as I do between 95 and 96. I'm sorry, between 95 and 99.6 because
Oh, really?
there's a bell curve involved in it.
So if I had,
It's a whole nother discussion.
are you basically saying that it would have been basically the same as what the amount you have changed now would have been the same if you had been at 60 and went to 99?
If I had gotten from, say, 65 to 80 would be a 15-point change on your scale. And it's a 3-point change in this case because I started at a different place. And to me, it's the same amount of shift.
Okay, I see. Kind of.
Yeah, because it's
I
on a
don't
weird little curve. And don't worry about the curve. We can have that discussion if somebody wants to talk about
I
uh,
don't.
my beliefs. Yeah, you don't.
Just
But
because I'm stupid with this. I don't know anything about science and math.
it's totally okay.
I'm I'm
You
good at
understand the nuance of how you've decreased my doubt by a significant fraction.
okay,
You
cool.
decreased my doubt by 2/3.
That's cool. So, okay, nice. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm good at other stuff, I swear.
You are good at this.
Heyo!
Heyo. You are
Woo!
actually very, very good at this, and I'm really looking forward to continuing this series in the coming weeks.
Alright, well, I appreciate you, buddy. We'll see you soon.
Great. If you wave, the AI will turn us off.